of Gaston County. So that's where the warning is right now. I haven't seen any reports come in from that area, but it's pitch black. I know we've got our Dallas camera, which is just to the west of there. I'm going to bring this up real quickly and kind of show you the view we have from there. That's on the left side of your screen, so we've got both of them. You could see it's just the visibility is next to zero because the tower is actually right in this storm. One of the things we could look for at night when you can't see the vortex or the tornado signature, we'll look for power flashes. And unlike lightning, which the light orients from the cloud down, power flashes from transformers or power lines being destroyed by wind, the light flashes from the ground up. So that's something you can see from our camera, and I haven't seen that yet, which would indicate there's something on the ground causing some damage. So if you're in Huntersville, if you're in the North Lake Mall area, the Mountain Island Lake area, Mount Holly, Lowesville, even Westport and Cornelius, go ahead and get to your shelter location until this passes. Like I said, even if there's not a tornado in that, the winds in that line are at least 60, 65, and that means near the windows of your house, branches, debris could be thrown at the house and could come into the home. So you want to put as many walls between you and the outside to block yourself from that debris. And if you're watching me online or on TV right now and you know friends or family in that area or coworkers, text them right now. Maybe they're not aware that this is happening right now, that we've got some severe weather moving into that area. Let them know to go ahead and seek shelter. The warning is up for about another 28, 29 minutes or so. So it probably will not last that long. They've been whittling this down pretty quickly as it's been pushing off to the east. But again, this is a tornado warning, which is indicated on radar. We don't have confirmation that it's on the ground, mainly because the visibility is so poor right now, and we have not seen any ground reports. It does look like it's bowing out a little bit. The more I look at the radar signature, it looks less and less like a tornado to me and more of like a strong straight line wind event. And what I'm referring to is this line right here, which is pushing towards the Catawba River right now. So let me put a storm track on that. And I'm going to throw that out at about 35, 40 miles an hour. So this will give you kind of an idea. Cornelius, this should be there 6:30ish, Huntersville, around the same time, and then eventually over towards Concord Regional Airport, Kannapolis, closer to the top of the hour, maybe 6:50 to 7 o'clock. One thing to remember, the radar updates once a minute, and this is instantaneous track, so don't wait for that exact time. Be in your shelter location long before that time and wait at least 5 minutes after. So plus or minus 5 minutes on those time of arrivals for that actual tornado track moving in. New severe thunderstorm warning was just issued, it looks like, for the same area. So we'll see if they downgrade that warning. This is the warning to the north. That's a severe thunderstorm warning now for Catawba, Davie, Iredell, and Rowan County. So this whole line, you get to picture, it is all producing some severe weather right now as the line is pushing in from the west. Right now, the speeds, I would say, the line itself is probably moving 30, 35 miles an hour, but the actual tornado, the radar indicated speed is roughly around 50 miles an hour. So that individual tornado is moving pretty quickly.
Brad, I was just curious, as we look at the outlook for the rest of the evening, are we expecting this to be something where we're watching this all night, or you think this is going to eventually fizzle out within the next couple of hours?
This is it. Once the leading edge of this moves through, the worst of it's over. So it's just getting through this line. This is a pretty potent cold front. You know, it's January. You typically don't see severe weather this time of year, but when you do get them, it's usually a pretty sharp cold front that's going from winter or spring to winter in this case, and that's kind of what we're seeing out there tonight. So a pretty potent line pushing off to the east. And again, this was a brief tornado probably. These QLCS tornadoes we call them, which is just an acronym we use in meteorology for QLCS. That is basically a squiggly squall line, for lack of a better term. When you see a straight line of storms, that's usually all straight lines. When there's little kinks, like think of a hose, and if you think about, if you ever had your hose kink up and it shuts the water off because the water can't go through, those little kinks are actually where there will be little vortices or rotation occurring, and that's what happens in these thunderstorm lines. We see that quite a bit. The problem with warning for these is they develop so quickly, and by the time the warning comes out, sometimes the tornado's lifted. These will last literally seconds, if not minutes, as they push through. So that's why I said anywhere along the line, I would be cautious. You could see all the warnings being issued, and just so you know, down to the south in South Carolina, there's additional warnings as well for the same thing. And you get the idea. When I'm talking about, squiggly line, this isn't just a straight line like this, which would be more ideal for lack of tornadoes. What you're seeing is the line buckle out, and there's little wiggles in the line. And these little wiggles, the wind's pushing this direction, the wind's trying to push there. So you can imagine in between there, you get some little circulations to spin up. And that happens quite a bit in these type of these thunderstorm events. So that's why we're seeing these quick warnings, which are popping up fairly quickly, and then they're kind of going away. So let's recap here. We're with the tornado warning now, but anywhere along this line, if you live on I-77 corridor, I'm talking from Statesville, Yadkin County, all the way down to Columbia, South Carolina, everybody in that path is going to see this line of severe weather. And everywhere along that line, we've got severe thunderstorm warnings for Iredell, Rowan, Cabarrus, Catawba, and Lincoln County till 6:30 and 7 o'clock. Then we have the tornado warning for the northeast corner now of Gaston County, southeast corner of Lincoln County, and northern Mecklenburg County till 6:45. And then Mecklenburg County and Gaston County, York, and Chester County, another severe thunderstorm warning. That one is up until 7 o'clock. So everywhere along the line, I think it would be probably better suited just to have one giant warning along that line than individual ones, because it's really this whole thing. So let's kind of do that. I can actually, let's just do that. We're going to take a storm track. I'm going to track this out at the speed of the line, which is about 35 miles an hour. So we'll draw a line here, track it due east. And so that storm track right there will tell you that's the whole line. So if you live anywhere in the path of that line, you're going to want to seek shelter in the middle of the house. Would you have to get in the closet or the helmet? Not necessarily, but I would get towards the middle of the house, get away from the windows. Those trees in your yard that you're probably always a little nervous about, maybe get away from that side of the house in case that tree does come down. And definitely big, bay windows, big panes of glass. You want to get away from that, because anything that gets picked up by the wind, lawn furniture, trash cans, debris can get blown into the window and break it. And then essentially you're outside susceptible to this. So Huntersville, 624, Rock Hill, Charlotte around 640, 645-ish, Salisbury around 650, Matthews 7 o'clock, Monroe 7:30, Asheboro, Wadesboro closer to 8:15, and then Rockingham about 9 o'clock. And that kind of times this out. That's when I think this will be completely out of our area, 9 or 10 o'clock. And Rockingham, obviously the furthest east in our viewing area, so that kind of makes sense with the setup for all this. So I'm not seeing any damage reports coming in. Brittany Van Voorhees is over here as well. And one of the things I always like to see in these situations is no damage reports coming in, because that's a good sign. That means nothing's on the ground.
Yeah, we're only getting reports of, hail lower than an inch, things like that. I know you've gotten a lot of pictures and videos, and I think that's a good reminder too. We talked a little bit earlier, Brad and I, about how the radar in Greer is out right now. It's down for some a little bit of breakage there. Thankfully, we still have the terminal Doppler, but you are our eyes and ears on the ground. We need, for this reason, you guys to send your pictures, videos, if you're able to do so safely. You can always send those to Brad, myself, through the Near Me function on the WCNC Charlotte mobile app. Of course, if you're streaming us live on there, pretty easy to do so. But again, do it, of course, from your safe place if possible. But this tornado warning, the first, at least for our area, Brad, of the day.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I mean, we have a great feature on our app, the Near Me feature. If you can, it will take your GPS location. You can submit videos and pictures. Because here's the thing. I mean, as much as we want those images, people downstream. What I mean by downstream, if you give us information about damage here, this gives higher confidence to issue more warnings east, and then the people east of you or a county over can then take the warning more seriously, knowing we have confirmed damage. Because right now this is a radar indicated tornado, but the radar data is lacking in our area because the radar being down in Greer. So we're relying on the FAA radar, which is based at Mountain Island Lake. It's an FAA radar, which does pretty good with wind, doesn't do so good with rainfall, because it's like if you've ever had Dish TV or Direct TV and you get rain fade, this happens to these weaker radars. When the radar is under heavy downpours, it attenuates, or the radar beam gets kind of absorbed by all the heavy rain and it can't punch through. But it does give us good wind information, and that's why this radar was installed. The FAA installed it for wind shear detection for Charlotte Douglas International, and that's where its main goal is right now. We're getting some video in. I didn't quite hear, guys, where that video was in, but Denver. So this is right there on the west side of Lake Norman. You could see the hail blowing across and the rain. Pretty impressive. I've seen a lot of pea-sized hail with these cells, which is an indication that these storms are getting pretty tall. We're able to tap into some colder air aloft. And anytime you get hail, you know you have a vigorous updraft, because it takes a lot of energy to blow rainfall up into the top of the storm, where it turns into a piece of ice. It will fall down. The updraft will take it, blow it back up there, and get another layer of ice. And like a snowball, it gets layers of ice until it's so heavy that updraft can't hold it up there. And when the hail falls to the ground, that's usually an indication of the size of how strong that updraft is. The bigger the hail, the bigger and stronger the updraft. And one thing you can do, and you can just safely do this, just like taking pictures for us, if you see hail laying around, break it open. If you see a ring in there or 2 rings, the number of rings will tell you how many times it went through that cycle in the thunderstorm. So it's like a tree ring. It tells you a little bit about the life cycle of that piece of hail. So again, the tornado warning's been whittled away. It's no longer in effect for any county except for Mecklenburg, because the circulation is now completely crossed the Catawba River. Really, Mountain Lake area is where it's crossed, and it's now into northern Mecklenburg County. So let's go back into this area. Huntersville, North Lake Mall area, right there, it's pretty much on top of Mountain Island Lake, and it's heading towards the North Lake Mall area. So if you're in that area, you know what I'm talking about. Big intersection here with 485 and 77, a lot of traffic on the interstate. And you know, a lot of folks probably in their car have no idea what is going on. Their phone might be going off as they're driving into the tornado warning, and they're probably asking themselves what's going on. Looking at the radar data, it's actually not as strong as earlier. So that's actually a pretty good sign that it has weakened quite a bit. I know, Vanessa, earlier you saw a bunch of power outages in the Mooresville area.
Yeah.
Which was pre-storm line. The storm line has just got there. Have you seen any uptick in outages since then, or?
Yeah, so everything has been pretty static since we had reported on those outages in Mooresville. We're seeing around 600, like you mentioned, reported shortly after 4 o'clock. So like you were alluding to, perhaps not weather related, but we're still waiting to see what the actual update is here with the cause. I'm just checking right now on Duke. It looks like Duke is still reporting this is an unknown cause still, but they've been dispatched. And then I've been checking around where you have reported, our more recent concerns. Looking around Mount Holly, Stanley, I haven't seen anything popping up. Checking on the crash front, everything looks pretty clear and quiet in those areas. But yeah, I do continue to check here Duke Energy and the Drive-NC feature just to make sure we're not seeing any weather-related impacts to power and to the roadways.
And since we don't have the power outages more reported, I guess now is a good time for people to make sure that they have their devices plugged in case we do see that kind of activity. I wanted to ask you about the fact that we've had a lot of rain over the past several weeks, and with this wind that we're getting, even though you haven't seen any damage reports, that's a major concern as we move through this storm system.
Because it takes a lot less wind to bring a tree down when the ground gets saturated. The one thing that's a saving grace right now, as we take a live look at the DOT camera near Huntersville, is that there's no leaves on the trees, right? It's the middle of winter, so there's less surface area for the wind to push on, but we get strong enough winds, it's not gonna matter. One thing I'll tell you, that DOT camera, I don't know, I'm not used to looking at this one, that looks pretty shaky right now. That is really moving. Now, I noticed most of the poles that these are mounted on are pretty sturdy, so that's an indication of how strong the winds are. And you can see the traffic. It's, when it rains around here, it always slows things down. And in this case, I am guaranteeing a lot of people's phones are going off. Ooh, that's a big cloud-to-ground lightning strike right there. Wireless emergency alerts are those alerts that, are blaring on your phone that are not part of an app, They're actually built into your cell phone carrier and your cell phone. You can opt in and out of those, but you don't pay for those. They're not part of an app that we have. Those come directly from the government, and those only go off when your phone enters an area where the cell phone tower you're pinging is in this warning polygon. So any cell phone tower that is in this purple box on the screen, we call it a purple polygon, that is going to set off the wireless emergency alert, or what we call WEA, in those areas. And in some cases, there's a little downside to this. You might be hitting a tower that you're not physically in the warning. You'll still go off. If you have our app, our WCNC app, and you have our GPS notifications turned on, it will only go off if your phone location is in the warning. So the whole point is to warn you when you're in there. So if you're driving on 77 north or south and you drive into a tornado warning, your phone technically should go off.
Interesting.
Because you've entered the tornado warning area. And it's probably alarming a lot of people in their car. They're probably driving with the radio on, and all of a sudden, you get that.
If folks are curious, by the way, this is 77 around Sam Fur, so that's going to be north of Huntersville. If you're just wondering, where are these conditions that we're seeing right now?
Yeah, it is. It's not a great night, and that's why I said no matter what, I'm not sure we saw a tornado in this storm. It was radar indicated. To me, the radar signature was really kind of iffy, and we had a lot of eyeballs on the ground, so we didn't see any damage or reports of power flashes. But the one thing we are seeing is a lot of wind. So straight line winds, and we saw a lot of lightning tonight, spectacular lightning. Check out this video, this lightning display. We saw it from our Dallas camera looking back to the west. And to see this much thunder and lightning in the month of January is pretty rare to see this much. This is the 4th time this winter we've had thunder. And so if you subscribe to that wives' tale, it's supposed to snow within 10 days. There's no correlation. This is the 4th time.
Well,
and we haven't seen snow yet.
But we are talking snow, right?
But in the mountains, we will see snow. But in the Charlotte area, we will not. Erica just sent me a picture from her Garmin watch of her wireless emergency alert going off on Twitter. So she is working, and she's in Huntersville, and it went off. So that's what we want to see. Someone just said they were on I-77 past exit 23 in the traffic. A lot of wind, moderate rain. And he said, it's okay, I wasn't driving, I was a passenger. So he was able to send us that. Thank you, Jeremy, sent that in. So great to know that people on the interstate were aware of what was going on. And he said it was really slow through that area. So again, this warning is going to expire here in about 14 minutes. But we have numerous severe thunderstorm warnings along this line. So this is a view from Mooresville. Some viewer video. Wow. The one thing you notice in all the video, we're getting sideways rain. So kind of that's an indication of how strong the winds are.
It's windy out there.
Yeah, that you're seeing the wind go from right to left there. And that's the one thing I can tell you for sure. What we're seeing a ton of, that we are getting a lot of wind in this line. And let me go back to the terminal Doppler, and you could see. Well, I will tell you, there is a little signature now, northeastern Mecklenburg County, east of Rocky River Road, right near the Cabarrus County line. What I'm looking at right there, there is a little circulation right there. There's a radar indication of circulation right there. That's on that corner of where Mecklenburg, Iredell, and Cabarrus all come together. So that's within the warning polygon. So that definitely, let me zoom in on there. That's right on Shearer Road, Terrell Ridge Drive, Vinwood Drive, and it looks like just north of East Rocky River Road. So yeah, there's something right there. I'm gonna put the icon. There's some circulation right there. It's very brief, and it's actually strengthened with the latest radar sweep. So that's an indication right there. I'm going to go over to the key wall real quick, guys. Just bear with me as I walk over. What you're looking at here is Doppler velocity. So the bright yellows and oranges are strong winds going away from the radar. Now, there's no blues and greens, but the lighter reds are showing winds coming back this way. So this is a circulation, and right there, that's the Mecklenburg-Cabarrus County line. Iredell County is right up there. So that right there, that's a circulation. So this is traveling to the northeast, so heads up in northwest Cabarrus County. There's the radar sweeping by. We'll have to see if the signature stays there, but that's an indication. That's that tornado warning for northern Mecklenburg County right there. That's probably the strongest signature I've seen within this warning so far. And I would expect that that was the area that the warning was initially issued for. I'll widen this out to kind of show you where that is. So you can see that's right on the Cabarrus, Mecklenburg County line, east of Cornelius, southeast of Mount Morn and Mooresville, Fishertown, Poplar Tent. That area is where it's heading. So the radar's sweeping around one more time. Be curious to see what the radar showed. This radar's there, so it's moved completely into Cabarrus County right now. Pretty tight little circulation there. So that's the line we're watching. So it's actually moved out of Mecklenburg County, and it's fully in Cabarrus County now. So Cabarrus County, you're under a severe thunderstorm warning. So I would take this seriously. I'm just going to say this: anybody ahead of this line, you're going to just want to go ahead and stay inside. Don't go out until this moves through. So we've got more video coming in. Infrared cameras at night always look spectacular because you see all that really bright rain flashing in front of the IR light. And then look at the lightning in the background. So some hail. There's some hail there as well. Yeah, bouncing around. Be great with some of the sound. I bet it's bouncing. You could hear it pretty good out there. You know, it sounds like when you hear the hail, it sounds like when you have sleet. It's going to be this. Ooh, it looks like the lights just went out there. So we're seeing a lot of video like this coming across the area as we've seen this line move through. So I would just say, you know, Fred made a good point before. If you got the phone, keep it plugged in. Just charge it up right now, because I have a sneaking suspicion we might see some brief power outages as this line moves through. Because one of the things about Charlotte and Mecklenburg County makes it a beautiful place to live. There's a lot of trees. Yeah. But a lot of those trees come down and hit power lines when we get wind like this. So that's one of the downsides, that you're going to see some power outages come down. Also, this Mooresville hail, we just saw this. I just got this tweeted at me from JD Smith. Great video there. A lot of pea-sized hail. So the hail hasn't been large, which means the hail hasn't been able to stay up in the cloud very long, but we've seen a lot of it, which tells you that we're seeing enough cold air aloft that we're getting some hail. That's also an indication of how much lightning we have. You're not going to get lightning unless you have ice in the top of the cloud either. So when you see a lot of lightning, you see hail, you know you're getting warm water from the bottom of the cloud up to the top where it's cold enough to create both hail and some lightning. So pretty significant amount of hail reports coming in, a little more than we expected actually. Didn't expect to see so much hail reports, but we've seen a lot of that, and the wind reports. So far so good. I've been checking on my Twitter feed, all of our spotters, checking with emergency management. So far I've been scouring through, have not seen any reports of damage from the tornado warned area. Most of the reports are like the videos we've been showing you: torrential rain, pea-sized hail, and occasionally we're getting some small power outages. I have not seen anything widespread yet. I'm going to check real quick just to make sure.
It looks the same.
I didn't jinx ourselves there. Yeah, really. Not many. There's been a lot more power outages in Georgia, in Alabama, we had tornadoes touch down.
This must be moving fast.
It is flying.
Because I feel like we were looking at that 77 in Sam Fur camera for a bit, and then it was kind of I don't want to say quiet, but yeah, relatively calm afterwards.
Here's the thing: the warning. They should cancel the tornado warning, because the cell that's rotating is not even in Mecklenburg County anymore. So you're right; it's already in Cabarrus County. That's how fast it's moving. But you know, the thing with these warnings, you don't want to put them out, then cancel them, put them back up. So it's better just to wait. Be
safe than sorry.
Yeah, because what is very confusing to the public is your phone telling you warning, no warning, warning, no warning. You don't want the windshield wiper effect. We don't want to go back and forth. So until it's completely in the clear, they're going to wait several volume scans for that to move in. I can tell you, looking at those signatures, there is some strong wind in the northwestern part of Cabarrus County, but it doesn't look as tight. It doesn't look like the tight circulations we had before. I'm going to go back in time just to see, and I'll show you kind of Cornelius area. There was right there, east that Rocky River Road area. So if you're in that area and you're listening to me, if you know somebody, I'm really curious if you saw or heard anything, because that's right around East Rocky River Road, Davidson Concord Road, north of there, south of Gray Road, northeast of Bailey Road. This would be the east-southeast side of Cornelius. The radar showed some brief circulation there as it crossed over I-77. and that was a quick moving system. You know, I was watching this because one thing that caught my eye was how spectacular the lightning and the shelf cloud was on our tower cam in Dallas. And then the radar showed this bulge of strong winds, pretty much passed right over our camera. I was looking for some kind of indication of damage or circulation, didn't see any, and then we saw the tornado warning come out. And so far, I mean, this has moved over a very populated area. I have not seen any reports of any damage right now.
I will say I did notice, Brad, and it kind of just stuck in my mind because I remember you calling out some of these locations between your tracking on the radar, but also our viewer submissions that we were getting.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a power outage in the Denver area, around 200 customers impacted. That was reported in the 6 o'clock hour, and then a smaller outage that's reported around Lowesville. So it looks like that's going to be impacting about 20 customers, but also reported in the 6 o'clock hour. I just remember you had recently called out those areas.
Yeah, and those were the areas that, you know, were really impacted early. So this line, the leading edge of it, again, extends from all the way up here in Davie County, back through Rowan County, into Cabarrus, Mecklenburg County, York County, and into Chester County. It's not quite to 77 south of Charlotte. It's definitely crossed 77 from Charlotte north. So the orientation of this line is northeast to southwest. So if you're in the eastern part of Chester County, I just someone just emailed, said we didn't talk about Great Falls. It's not to Great Falls yet. It's not there yet. The storm is still back to your west. Lancaster, Union, Anson, Stanley, Richmond, and Chesterfield County, it's heading your way. The storm right now is over the I-77 corridor. So we're getting more video in. Thanks for sending these in to everybody out there, because the video really is telling the story of the strong winds. Every piece of video I've seen so far have basically sideways rain, tons of lightning, and pea-sized hail. So a good indication that these winds are pretty strong in these, but we haven't seen a lot of corresponding damage, which, trust me, is a great thing. The reason we look for damage reports is we're trying to get a good idea on what's happening on the ground. The radar tells us only so much. The thing about radar data, it only samples the storm where the radar beam is. Below the radar beam, humans with cameras and eyeballs are our best source of weather information, and they really hit home the fact of what could be happening to the east as the line pushes to those counties that have not been impacted yet. So thank you so much for sending those images. Please do them safely. You can send it to us on social media. You can email us directly. But one of the best ways, I'll be honest, is grab the WCNC app, the Near Me feature. It's going to geotag it and get it to us the quickest, easiest way possible, and it's going to give us a map location. So, and that's the thing. If you send it any other way, give us a time when you took it or saw that picture or video and where your location is, so that we have a good idea. Those are important pieces of information. So again, tornado warning for, 3 more minutes. Nightly news we're breaking into them right now, but we will stay on until this warning expires, just to make sure it is not going to be reissued. One of the things I do is I'm on a constant chat with the Weather Service office down in Greer, South Carolina, and we're always kind of talking back and forth. You think we're going to see additional warnings? And so far, the warning over Mecklenburg looks less of an issue. There seems to be more of a focus now on the storms in the Midlands of South Carolina, where you see that secondary tornado warning for Greenwood and Lawrence County. And folks in Chester County, this is something to keep a close eye on, because this is to your southwest, and that is pushing northeast. So in Chester County, that would be an area that we'd have to watch very carefully as it pushes that in direction. So I'm seeing some damage reports coming out of the upstate area, in the Hodges area. So those storms look a little stronger, and we're getting more reports of damage out of those than over the heart of the metro area. But either way, wait till this line passes. And just so you know when this line passes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to track the back edge of the line to give you an idea of when the worst will be past you. So this is when the worst is past you. So Charlotte, it's probably going to be closer to the top of the hour. Monroe, probably 7:45. Albemarle, almost 8 o'clock. Asheboro, Wadesboro, out towards the Sandhills, 8:45. Now, if we go to the south a little bit, I can show you where that line is, because that line definitely has potential to be stronger. We'll put a track on that. I'll put a leading edge of that, because that one is not there yet. We'll track that due east, and you can see Rock Hill, 6:46, Newberry, 7:05, Wingate, Monroe around 7:30-ish. Lancaster 7:45. Great Falls area probably around 7:35 or so. Winnsboro area right around 7:48 or so. So that's a line that I'm actually a little more concerned. The environment down in South Carolina has been a little more potent than up here in North Carolina, where we've had some stable air in place. So again, tornado warning in effect for a couple more minutes. So this is 485 near Burkdale, right? So heading, sorry, Oakdale, sorry, I'm like Burkdale and 77 now. But we're seeing, these are live or this is recorded? Okay, so this was sent to me earlier, and this kind of gives you an idea of the indication, thank you guys, of what the roads look like out there. The visibility is really, really low. And I know someone's gonna put their hazards on, come on. Please don't drive with the hazards on. It is really distracting to a lot of people. I know you feel like you're doing a great job making yourself more visible, but it really indicates a lot of people who might be broken down or pulling over. And that person then is driving faster in the left lane. So just have your lights on, wipers on, lights on, and just slow it down. That's the best thing you can do in these conditions is give yourself extra space between other vehicles. Remember, it usually takes a car length for every 10 miles per hour of speed that you're traveling. You might want to double that in rainfall like this because it's going to take your car much longer to slow down. So traveling a big concern. So good news, tornado warning has expired. So all tornado warnings for our area currently expired, but we have severe thunderstorm warnings along this line for Davie, Iredell, Cabarrus, Rowan, Iredell, Mecklenburg until 7 o'clock, and then to the south, York County, Gaston, Mecklenburg till 7:30, and Chester County, a little area, that warning is up until 7 o'clock. So guys, we're going to return to our programming already in progress. That's going to be NBC Nightly News. We will continue coverage if we have to online, and we'll cut back in. Please stay tuned for updates. Keep that phone charged. Stay weather aware east of I-77 for the next couple of hours until this line clears completely out of there. But now we're going to return to your programming already in progress.
Doug.
Hey man, nice base. Clearly you're a safe driver.